Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we navigated some technical issues, and welcome to this morning's Student in the Workplace virtual connection. We're happy to have you with us on this Monday morning, this snowy Monday morning. This morning we do have from Crawford County Children and Youth Services, Krysta Simons, the Integrated Intake Supervisor. And she will be sharing her time a little bit with Sarah, who's the CYS intern. So you'll learn a little bit more about those opportunities as well. But to start, I'm going to send Krysta live. There she is. Thank you, Krysta, for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. As Ann said, my name is Krysta Simons, and I am the Integrated Intake Supervisor at Crawford County Human Services. I specifically am supervising intake caseworkers that work with children and youth. I have been here approximately 13 years, with the majority of my time being either as an intake caseworker or intake supervisor. I started off as an ongoing caseworker so long ago, 13 years ago. At this point in time, some of my biggest responsibilities in this current position that I have is I am supervising 4 caseworkers that go out in the field and meet with our families doing the investigations. They carry an average caseload of right now probably between 15 and 25. So I have to meet with them every 10 days to discuss those cases and provide supervision and direction. You guys will be meeting Sarah. She is my intern, so I'm currently supervising her, co-supervising her as well with our training supervisor, hopefully to hire her on. She'll give you some of those opportunities and what that looks like later. And then I guess those are my biggest roles right now. I do sit on some committees after everything that happened with the Child Protective Service law changes. I sit on what we call our multidisciplinary team, and we meet monthly to talk about all the cases that come through CYS and anything that has a police investigation. So that's another responsibility I have here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And before we delve into questions and back and forth, I just want to remind our attendees, or for those that are new and this is their first session, we do have a live Q&A, and if you look, for most of you, it's going to be in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little chat box with a question mark. You can submit questions at any time, and I will feed them to Krysta towards the end of our time together, and I know she'd be happy to answer them. So please feel free at any point to make your way over to that question and answer button and submit a question, and we'll make sure that they get answered. But Krysta, if you could actually share kind of your career journey, and so where you started in field and kind of how you got to where you are, because obviously, you have people working under you, and there are different jobs and opportunities within children and or CYS, but maybe also social work as a field in general. So if you could share your journey.
I do want to feel free to stop me at any point if I start rambling on and on, because I've been here a long time and there's a lot. But so I started off, I went to, my undergrad is actually in political science. And I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that. I had kind of tossed around maybe pre-law, but I took some civil service tests and qualified for the county case manager, county caseworker. So I had a job interview at Crawford County Human Services, where I was hired as an ongoing case manager. I did that for about a year and a half. An ongoing case manager works with any family that's been accepted for services after they've completed their 60-day assessment. We offer services to the family, link them to community resources with hopes of being able to close out. After about a year and a half, I was asked to temporarily cover in the intake department while somebody went back to school to get their master's degree. I did that for about 4 months and then went back to ongoing for only 2 months because I found my real passion there in intake, and applied to go back as soon as I could. And the difference between the two positions, as an intake caseworker, you actually complete the investigations and assessments. You to determine if a family needs ongoing services. I liked the fast pace of it. I liked the higher caseload that comes along with that. And I really enjoyed, sometimes it felt like you saw more successes because you didn't you weren't working with only the families that were opened. So you got to see people make progress in a real short amount of time, and link them to community resources. I did that for about 5 years, and in that time was given the opportunity, when you work in a child welfare agency, there's a program, you're able to go back to school and they help pay for your master's. So I did that and ended up getting my master's in social work. Came back and pretty quickly was presented the opportunity to move to supervisor. And I've been doing that now for about, I'd say 6 years, with a brief break where lots of people go to school here because of that program. So there's temporary positions places. So I was the actually program manager of the intake department for 2 years while someone else was at school.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I knew your journey was kind of broad and wide, but I think really important for our students out there to hear about the progression and how you can move up and kind of the different opportunities that are there. And I know we'll spend more time talking about that going back to school and the perks that maybe are built into what you've done. But from a little bit of a general standpoint, can you talk about the soft skills or those kind of more essential skills that are required for someone who wants to go into the work that you do? And so, we hear a lot across the board, flexibility, patience, but what are some of the soft skills that you feel like you need?
Of course, flexibility and patience are great when you're working with people. But I definitely think too, it's the ability to be real and authentic to yourself. Because that's what gets you engagement with a family, especially when you have short amount of time to build those connections. Families don't, and I'm not sure what all the students know about CYS, but families aren't always trusting of us as an agency as we come in. There's a lot of misconceptions that we just place kids or we get paid to do such a thing. But really our job is to help families stay connected together. And rapport building is huge in that. You have to be transparent. You have to feel comfortable to be transparent and open, but respectful. And I think that's a fine line that some people get caught up in because they think they need to be aggressive, but really it's about being assertive. And honesty will go a long way, even if someone doesn't necessarily like what you're saying at their house or what you're talking to them about. I've had several clients tell me that before, but they always respected me, and because they knew that I'd be honest with them. So it's feeling comfortable kind of in your own skin to be able to do that as well, because there are some tough situations. Staying calm under pressure is a big one here, because you sometimes are walking into situations that involve tough conversations about people's children, and as parents, everybody loves their kids and they're protective of them. So being able to stay calm, being able to redirect, and knowing your limits. When I went back and got my master's, that was a huge thing for me too, like just becoming more self-aware of the things that I do better with and maybe the things I need to work on. So I'm sure that's stuff that you guys hear often in these talks, but definitely some of the biggest things is feeling comfortable with assertiveness while being respectful.
Yeah, actually, I think that one might be a new one, being comfortable with assertiveness. So I appreciate that. I think in general, a lot of jobs working with people, we do hear a lot of the same things, and it's good to hear them because that's, every job at this point is probably going to interact with a person at some point. And that's kind of the reality, that we have to be able to do that and work with other people. So I appreciate you even reiterating that and adding something to the conversation that we've had. So I know that every day of your job is different, but can you talk about what specifically are the tasks that fill your job? So we've gotten this broad overview of what you do, but on a day-to-day basis, what does that look like? How do you fill your time?
I don't have a good set schedule. Is the one thing, because it's really the needs in this position currently, it's definitely to the needs of what my workers need. So the one thing that I try to be consistent in is I do have to meet with them at least every 10 days by our regulations for supervision. So I try to stay consistent and respectful of their time in that. But other than that, they're in and out of my office. Workers are constantly asking questions, giving updates, getting maybe new redirection because of something they found out. Families are calling me. Families are asking questions. There's home visits that I often have to go on if a worker's feeling like they're maybe hitting a wall or maybe having a more difficult relationship with a client. I will assist them and go out on that. It's also constant training, always looking at what the workers. This is a job that does have turnover at a high level, and so it's constantly reevaluating what your workers need and where they need support. So a lot of my day is spent with that, and then sprinkle in some meetings.
So a lot of kind of almost customer service, right? You're constantly working with your workers, your clients, so to speak, the customers that are out there. So, for those that are watching, I think that's an important point. So we've touched and danced around the topic, but I think now might be a good time to talk a little bit about kind of the benefits, the fact that you went back to school, and then also the internship opportunities as well. And so that's kind of a broad, you take that and tell me what you want to share.
All right, I think one of a good way to start with this would be, I'm probably going to pass you over to Sarah to start. Yep. Because we're going to have, I'm assuming that these guys are going to be going from that level first. So Sarah can explain what her benefits are with interning at the agency. She actually is an intern through civil service. To work at our agency, you have to apply through civil service because we are a civil service agency. Pennsylvania requires that for all children and youth. So anybody that's interested in a case management position would start there. But getting out of college, you can apply to be a civil service intern. And so Sarah will go through that and then what that looked like for her through Edinburgh. That's where she is a student. And then we can take you back over when we talk about a little bit more about how I advanced my education here.
Awesome.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I'm currently a senior at Edinburgh University, and I started here at Crawford County in, I would say, August, mid to late August. So I'm currently interning through a program called CWEB, and this program runs through Pitt University, and there's like a lot of benefits that come from doing this. So because I'm going through CWEB, they're paying for my senior year of school, which is really amazing, and they give me $600 a month. And they are also paying for all my books and other things that I need from school. And then if part of that, I have to get about, normally without COVID, it would be 975 hours for the whole year. But because of COVID, I'm only required to do 730. And then at the end of the year, when I graduate, they'll give me about $2,000 for graduating. And I am guaranteed, I don't want to say guaranteed, but you have to pay back that year because they pay for school. You have to give back a year to them. So I'm allowed to choose any children youth service agency within PA to go to.
Awesome. Can you explain a little bit more, Sarah, how is this a program that everybody who's studying what you're studying gets involved with? Is it something unique that you have to apply to? So how did you get the internship that you are experiencing now?
So to apply for CWEB, you have to be a social work student, and anyone that is a social work student can apply. With the way how social work is as a major, it's like very specific how it is outlined throughout your 4 years in school. So your internship would be your senior year of college, and anyone can apply to it that's in social work, and you have to take a child welfare class. And I don't think that there's a limited amount of spots either. Anyone can apply for it.
Awesome. So would it be, for those out there who might be interested in majoring in social work and going on to that career, Is this an experience that you would recommend?
110%. I feel like I'm getting so much experience compared to the other internships out there. A lot of the other internships that some of my cohort is in right now, they're mostly observing, and with the way how Crawford County is and CWeb, I have a lot of hands-on experience, and that's like very important to me because like I learn by doing. So I feel like I will be really prepared to start this job after I graduate. And I think that's like the most beneficial thing about this internship is like how much you learn and how much hands-on experience you're getting with everything.
Yeah, and I think that makes perfect sense. Now, for the most part, we've had mainly high schoolers and I think a lot of seniors on these talks. So for those out there that are interested in social work, since you're still kind of in it and studying it, do you have advice for them as they start to navigate potentially majoring in social work and going down this pathway?
Like Krysta said, just being yourself. I feel like to be a great social worker, you have to be comfortable with yourself and knowing who you are so that you can understand how you can work with other people.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'm glad that you guys are both kind of reiterating that advice because I think it's really fantastic advice for those of our students who are on the call. Sarah, are there other things that you would like to share with our students about your experience, benefits, anything that we didn't touch on that you think would be important for them to know?
Doing an internship is really amazing and it gives you a lot of experience, which is really great instead of just sitting in a classroom. Especially with COVID, everything would have been online and I'm still getting an in-person experience, which is really great for me. And I still feel like I'm learning instead of just like watching on my computer screen. With social work, I feel like you have to be yourself and you have to understand personal biases and cope with that and like learn how to deal with that so you can work with different populations of people. Yeah, I think that's all that I have to say.
No, that's awesome. And I'm so happy we had you here on the call as, you know, a real life student who is experiencing that internship and experiencing something that might not be far off for our high schoolers who are on this call right now. So thank you so much for sharing, Sarah.
Of course.
All right, before you ask the next question or move on, Anne, the more that Sarah and I say it, I'm like, oh, we have high schoolers on here. They're probably like, I am learning about myself. And so with that said, one of the important things that I just wanted to make sure that I said before we moved away from that topic is that I'm constantly growing, even after doing this for 13 years and finding out new stuff about myself. So the most important thing when we keep saying that is to feel comfortable to talk to your supervisor or mentors as you are learning these things about yourself, because that's what will help you talk it out and work well with other people. I don't expect you to be 100% self-aware coming in the building. I'm still not, and I still use my supervisor as I grow. So I just want to make sure that we're not scaring people away from these opportunities by talking about all this self-awareness, because we're still working on it.
Fair point. So we do have some questions now coming in through our Q&A. So I'm gonna make my way over to that. And then at the end, if there's anything else that you would like to add, we can do that. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
All right, so somebody asked, so these are some of our basic ones. What type of education is required?
So there are two ways that you can actually come into our agency as a caseworker. They're identified as caseworker 1 or caseworker 2. As a caseworker 1, there's less requirements for your degree. So caseworker 1, both degrees, if you don't have experience, require a bachelor's. You can come in as a caseworker 1 if you have experience doing this type of work in something else in an associate's degree, but the credits are going to have to be in psychology or social work or criminal justice. So I believe that you would have to, like, I have a bachelor's in political science. I had to come in as a caseworker, one, because I only had I had like 12 criminal justice credits that were able to transfer over. So that's kind of where that sticky point comes in. But experience, when you apply, you fill out a resume online is how you apply now. And when you go through that, you can write out all your experience if you happen to have experience doing human services related work. When you go through school, like, so obviously Sarah has a social work degree, or will have a social work degree, but when the one benefit of interning, which I want to really let you guys know about, is that she doesn't have to apply to get into our agency in the same way. And there's no probationary period for Sarah when she starts. Because she was an intern through civil service, she just automatically comes right into all the benefits. She doesn't have to go through the 90-day probation period.
Awesome. Thank you. So next question along the same lines, can you speak to the pay and the benefits? And so benefits including, the fact that you went back to school and such.
Okay. So it's important that when we talk about pay, that everybody understands that that's Crawford County. Every county has a different base pay. And so I know that some of our smaller counties might start off around $14 an hour, roughly in that area. In our agency, a caseworker 2 is about 18 an hour coming in the door. And then as an intake worker, well, it might be 20 now, because an intake worker starts off at 22, because an intake worker does have a higher pay rate due to the fact that we do investigations, that we work with the police, and we investigate physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. You work a 35-hour work week minimum. We obviously know that will fluctuate just based on your caseload and what's happening in your paperwork. Newer individuals getting used to the paperwork usually have a little more overtime. Then as you kind of get yourself organized, that goes down. Something that people get a little nervous about, just to throw out there, is we do have an on-call component. In our county, some other counties have a second shift that works, but in Crawford County, you are eligible for on-call after working here for 6 months. You go through an on-call training, and then we do ask that you take at least your first on-call just so you can get used to it. A supervisor's on-call with you, and then after that, you can give it up if it's something you don't want. Other people usually take it because they like the money that is associated with it. Some of the benefits, this is again specific to Crawford, but I know not all jobs have such a thing anymore, but I do have the benefits of having a pension plan, which is really nice coming into a job, especially when you come in right out of college. So I'm vested after 20 years. So at 43, I'll be able to do something else if I want, have a pension plan for retirement. There's good county benefits for, like I have good vision, dental, and health insurance. One of the best benefits that Ann kind of prompted me to make sure I talked about was I was able to participate in the Child Welfare Education Leadership Program, which is CWEL. It's something that our county really believes in. Not all counties do participate in CWEL. It's the version of CWEB for your master's. And I actually, the county, you have to apply to get into this program. You get selected from your county, then you have to get accepted into Pitt through the CWEL program, just as Sarah talked about earlier. And then they paid 95% of my salary. They paid for all my benefits, and I kept all my seniority while they paid for my school as well. And then I had to give 2 years back county. It's a really great program because they want to make sure that our child welfare workers are educated, staying up to date on like just what you need to be productive and to help our community. And then the idea is that I'll come back to this office and hopefully I'm doing this and spread that knowledge. So it's an excellent program, and it's one of the best benefits to working here.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think in terms of benefits, when you're younger, and we probably both felt this way, didn't quite understand how all-encompassing benefits could be, and that could include a lot of things that isn't insurance. And being able to go back to school and receive your master's degree and 95% of your salary and all of that, that's a huge benefit that we don't often think about. So a couple more questions here have rolled in. Do you find it hard to leave the difficult things that you see behind when you go home?
If you asked me this question earlier in my career, the answer would have been yes. The first, and not when I was in ongoing. So when I came to intake, you're the first responder that goes out on all the abuses, all the, the neglect cases that come in. And most cases you go out on aren't bad. And we do get a lot of calls that are people just mad or might be exaggerated. But I remember, obviously I can't tell you who, but there was one case in particular that I really did struggle with. And what helped me through learning different coping for that was I had a supervisor that I was very comfortable speaking to. And I remember sitting in his office a lot crying, talking about this case. And he provided, everybody's going to find their own ways to work through that. But he kept working with me until I was able to find better coping and different ways to leave things behind. And so there were some things that he had kind of said to me that stuck with me specific to that family, but really helped me understand that it's not my fault. And I think that's where people get hung up, like, why should I have seen something? Why couldn't I have done something? But being able to process through that with someone is the biggest benefit when you're new here. And now I have identified some coping skills on my own. Like, I definitely exercise a lot. I really try to leave things at work and try to have a separation. One of the things I've started doing recently is I don't listen to music on the way home so I can decompress. So when I walk in the door, I'm not talking about this anymore. So you'll find ways if this is something that you're truly meant to do, but it is something that's harder in the beginning.
Yeah, thank you. So a sort of similar question, but what do you dislike about your job?
The hardest part of this job is when you see a potential in somebody, but you feel like you can't make the connection to help them see that potential. And that I feel that way in workers and in consumers. And so that's the hardest part, is because sometimes you're like, oh, we can be so good, or we could make this work, or, and so understanding that people are in control of their own day, and you can just give them a roadway, but they can choose to walk on it. And so that's sometimes is the most frustrating part.
Yeah, fair. And they didn't ask it, but just because I think it's good for the positive, what's your favorite part about your job? What do you like the most?
That's hard for me because I absolutely love working in child welfare. I can't imagine doing something else. When I was a worker, it was making the connections and seeing the change. As a supervisor, it's watching it click with the workers and then watching them see the change in their families. And it's just like this cool magical moment where you feel like you're making a difference. So I could probably ramble about that forever though, because I absolutely love this line of work. I can't imagine doing something else. It's very rewarding to see as you move up in this type of work in this agency. It's rewarding to see like the influence you can have on the people in this building, and then now how much that's affecting the outside world. So it's just cool to watch it grow. Yeah,
I'm sure it is, and your passion and such is the reason why we wanted you to speak to our students today. So that is the end of our question list, but I am going to leave you with one last one that we kind of end every time because we've had a lot of high schoolers on these calls and seniors. If you could give them one bit of advice as they're starting to figure out what comes next and navigate all of the choices that are in front of them, what would that piece of advice be?
Be open to everything. I went through 4 years of college fully intending to go to law school, and I somehow ended up taking this civil service test that landed me here, and I fell in love and found out what I was really supposed to be in life. I was meant to be a social worker. And the opportunity to go back to get my master's cemented that for me. I didn't know what all these things were when I was going through school, but I did them prior to getting my master's. Like, I was strength-based. I like, you know, practicing, you know, parts of CBT when I was on visits or motivational interviewing. And then when I went to school, I learned, oh, this is these things I'm doing. And I never would have chose this career path when I was getting my bachelor's. And I have no idea, like, now that I look back, like, I'm just so happy I fell into this. And so just be open to everything, explore things, take classes outside of your major. You might find something that you fall in love with, and it's cool. It's cool.
Well, thank you for that, and great advice for those of our students who are on the call. I just want to say a big thank you again to Krysta and Sarah for joining us here today and sharing about their job and internship and experience and everything that goes along with that. We really appreciate you spending time with us this morning. Thank you to all of our attendees out there who joined us on the call and for your thoughtful questions and for submitting those to us. And just a reminder, as always, keep an eye on our website. All of our links for every session between now and December is on there. So we've got a whole full month of these coming up. But thank you to Krysta and Sarah one more time, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you.